Okay, officially, we're starting our podcast, everyone. What?
Well, this is a great
What
first
a
thing
great start.
What a great start.
Okay, we have a topic list. We're ready to get it started. Guys, we're debriefing the Oz GP, and the first thing I have to say to you is, how do you feel about Logan Sargent's seat?
Okay. Obviously, we know Albon has been outperforming Sargent quite literally since day one of last year. Logan only got his only point, actually, in Formula One on a technicality where someone got a penalty, he got P10. That's still valid. That happens all the time with drivers. You get more points because of penalties and stuff, and that is what it is. That's just life. That's racing. But to punish someone who hasn't made a mistake at all this year when the better driver just shunts into the same wall, that's just a little ridiculous to me. Yeah. This is going to happen all the time, but it's okay. But I feel it was a bit ridiculous. You're trying to build this driver's confidence, and you just take his drive away for something he didn't do.
I think the problem is it's not with the fact that Logan Sargent lost his seat per se. I think my biggest issue with it is that the team wasn't ready. For a team that has been talking so much so much game for James Val being there, and we're gonna make the team so much better, and everyone kind of thought that. Here we are, and you guys weren't prepared for the GP, so that's where I stand with it. Well, it's his job to fix it.
But haven't backwards back to Bahrain. Fundamental thing. Alex Albon's dash. Right.
She's the guest star.
Yeah. It just always. That's a problem. Have that happen. And
it's yours. Well, you didn't have to hear him. There we go. It's because Ben's mic is messed up. Oh, I'll fix it.
No, it's good now. It's because Sage hit my cord and it dislodged it just enough. Anyways, fundamental problems. Williams' steering wheel just keeps messing up. They talk big game over the winter break, and nothing's working so far, and it hasn't been working for multiple races. You're not ready with spare parts in the next race, the third race of the season. It's just...
All I'm saying is that I think it's a Williams problem, and I think... I got really pissed off when James Val sat next to Logan Sargent and said it was the right thing to do. I think that's a massive F you. So that's my take on Logan Sargent. I feel really bad for him. I don't think you should have to sit in the garage and watch someone else race your car. So that's on that.
Next up.
Sage, I'm going to beat you up.
Sure.
Are you sure about that?
No, I'm definitely not. I'm not.
Okay, guys, this isn't happening in order, but I wanted to make sure we talk about the George Russell bathroom
incident
scandal. So these two guys were invited to the GP by I don't know who,
some sponsor, it seems,
and they actually recorded him using the bathroom. The urinal, which I think is so scuffed.
Invasion of privacy.
Yeah, we were talking about this. I think it's so weird that I don't know. The guest star is getting feisty. Well, no, they recorded him at the urinal and posted it on TikTok, and then the video got taken down. We were totally shocked. Hello? She's mad at the Scuderia.
She's mad at the cord.
I was shocked by it. I only found out because a bunch of people were posting on, girl, I am gonna kick you in the shin. We only found out about it because people were posting like to like get it taken down.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel some type of way about it. I think we're having a piddle. Yeah, that's what we're saying. Like,
it's just weird. You wouldn't do that to anybody else. I don't know why you're doing it to an F1 driver.
well,
It's
that's the thing. Like,
just doing it to a famous person because they're famous.
like my whole take on it is, of course, you gotta stop.
It's not gonna stop. It's the same thing as Friday.
And okay. Some weirdo young TikTok influencer whose brain only goes. You should go watch them. I do remember their names, but I don't know
No
if they
free clout.
probably. What?
No free clout.
Yeah, no free clout. Well, okay, here's the thing. Woman to man, we talked about this, and you guys use the urinal every day. Like, it's not like you guys are like. It's not something new. It's not a new concept. Like,
It's just something you do.
I mean, are you gonna record your boss in the bathroom? Like, for what? Your own satisfaction?
It's uncalled for. It's disrespectful. Just why? You know, it literally comes back to just why would you think that's a good idea for anybody?
From what I understand, it's turning into an assault charge.
Yeah, as it likely should.
I'm getting very injured.
Get the guest star out of here.
Yeah, I would have shut the door so the guest star wasn't in here.
Yeah. True.
Drive to Survive content?
Pretty much.
Well, like, way to get yourself banned from literally every event in the future.
You had a great opportunity.
They are the most annoying people I've ever heard, if you want my own personal opinion, but that's just me. They're two twins that are obnoxious. No free clout. If you want to see, you can Google it. I'm not saying their name. I think they're dirty human beings. Sorry if that's annoying. I can post it in the Discord later or send it to you, but we're not going to talk about it on here.
They're ridiculous.
Other than the fact that it
shouldn't have happened.
They're older than us.
There's no, oh, well, we didn't know better, but
no, like, they're not children. They're adults. They're actually,
understand.
I'm pretty sure, closer to 30.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Whatever. Okay.
Moving on.
Okay, wait.
I think.
Another point I was going to make was, not in order again, this kind of came out of the blue, so I want to make sure we talk about it, is, I know, poor George. Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. It gets worse. Toto, Max, Yas. There's a bunch of drama coming out. I don't know how much anybody has seen about it, but I don't know how much you've read about it.
I have not.
I get it a lot. Must be because I love Toto Wolff or something. But apparently Yas and Toto are in agreement that they're done with the bullshit. And so there's a really high likelihood that Max is being looked at for Mercedes, but there's some sort of weird I don't know what I want to call it. I was going to call it a threesome, but I feel like that's a bad word.
Dynamic.
Menage a trois. Dynamic happening between the three of them. Not much information to report on that one. Just the fact that it's really weird, and people are getting very upset that Toto is talking to Yas because Yas said bad things about Lewis, and it's just this never-ending blame game cycle, and everyone's mad. I mean, I know Yas has done bad things in the past. I'm not agreeing with them. I'm just saying this is totally different. But that's my opinion on it. I don't know how much anyone or you have seen about it, but I keep getting stuff about it, and that is that.
It just seems like people in general in the F1 paddock are tired of the whole Red Bull boss situation.
Which we will get into at some point, I'm sure. But I don't know. I severely believe, and especially after the race this weekend, which we'll get into later, it was like everybody and their mother wanted to play the blame game about everything that happened. So other than that, Ben can take us into quali.
So moving on into qualifying, the main shock out of Q1 at least was, of course, homeboy Daniel Ricciardo. I think it was turn 4 or 5. That first, actually the second high-speed chicane went wide, lap time deleted. I think he put it almost near the top 10, but kind of it's getting very frustrating as a Daniel Ricciardo fan, as I'm sure many other people think in general. People, of course, already calling for his replacement. That's to be expected because they've been doing it since the beginning of his AlphaTauri seat.
Bro, he took one of my topics and put it in the beginning.
Who did?
You did.
Oh, but it's just classic F1 Twitter drama, people calling for his replacement. And there have been, I kind of mentioned this to you. This is jumping forward a little bit, but there was a statement made by Helmut Marko who said, we need to give Daniel a better car. We know he doesn't perform like this. We know how he is, and this is not the Daniel we know. We need to give him a better car. But there's also statements coming out that they also gave him a 2-race ultimatum. Otherwise, Liam Lawson's going to take the seat.
Yeah, apparently Liam Lawson is up for the seat. But at the same time, we are kind of in agreement that we highly doubt that's true.
At the moment.
I did see some interesting stats about how Yuki outperformed De Vries and how Yuki also is outperforming Daniel.
Although, to be fair,
yeah,
Daniel's pace was very close to Yuki's this race as well. Same with Jeddah. He just got really, really messed up in qualifying. In Australia, let's hope he can bounce back at Suzuka. That's the hope. But is what it is. Sorry,
the cat just took a cable tie and started playing with it.
Where would Pourchaire go? I don't see Pourchaire getting an F1 anytime soon.
We talked about this, actually. Yeah, we don't see it happening.
Just like Drugovich. Great drivers. Both Formula 2 champions. I don't see a place on the grid for them at all. Especially Drugovich, because why would you back Aston Martin when there's one seat there? As long as the Strolls are in control of that team, there's one seat at Aston Martin.
Are you saying that we need to mention another DILF? Toto Wolff, Lawrence Stroll, and me? What a category to be in.
What a category. Moving on to qualifying 2. Biggest shock there?
I didn't even get to talk about Daniel.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted to talk about Daniel. I thought you said everything. We were talking about other things.
I like Daniel Ricciardo. Geez, he move on quick.
Well, we're trying to keep it moving. We got a lot of topics.
We don't, really.
Yeah, we do.
So Daniel Ricciardo, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know this is probably mean of me. I kind of make fun of him. I
got it.
Explicit content.
Are you gonna stand on the chair?
But I think that him being out in Q1 is like, everyone was like, oh my god. It's literally what they talk about immediately after because it's his home race. But I don't think I expected much more.
Something else I also just realized is this is the difference you have when you have someone that's been struggling in their career for a little while versus someone who's doing great. Because Daniel goes off track limits. Oh, he's washed. He doesn't know how to drive the track, blah, blah, blah. Someone like Lando Norris 2 years ago goes off track. Oh, he could have been like P3, but he went off track and then he got out of qualifying. Oh, so unlucky. Where's the double standard? My 2 cents.
My 2 cents is I'm not saying like Daniel's washed.
No, I don't think
I'm not one of those people. I think he's a good driver. I just don't know if I expected anything more as of now. Just like it's kind of the same thing when I look at Yuki, when I look at that team as a whole. Visa Ketchup, Red Bull, whatever.
RB.
I don't really expect too much. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like something where I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna be so good. They're gonna be behind the Red Bulls. Like,
I think they'll be consistent
team for sure.
Points getters.
Yeah, midfield.
One driver probably each race scoring a low amount of points as long as they have a good strategy, which, to be honest, they really haven't at the beginning of the season. Neither with Yuki nor Daniel have had great strategies, but we'll see.
Sorry, I was writing something down. Anyway, on to Q2.
Q2.
Oh, wait, hold on. Danny was good at Red Bull, but I do think he maybe underperformed even though he won a few. I think he's good, but he'll never be great to be the best, in my opinion. I would hope that he would be the best eventually, because I think he has put in a lot of work.
He's so consistent.
And I think he's gone through a lot through different teams and stuff and what has gone down. But again, I think we hit limits of when we can expect people to hit the top. And there's so many people that are younger that are coming up. And I'm not saying I don't like Danny because that's not true. I think he's a great driver. I think he's phenomenal. I think he knows how to drive a car. But I think that there's so many young people coming up. I mean, this is the whole concept of, I mean, no matter what, we've got Kimi Antonelli, like, who's coming up. We've got, you know what I mean? Like, you disagree with Ben? You think Danny is too inconsistent? I think he's consistent in certain places of a car.
He's consistent in that. If there was an interesting chart from 2021 of how many times each driver spun. Throughout the entire 2021 season, Daniel spun once, the least of any other driver. And this is one of my key issues with him. I don't think he pushes his cars hard enough. And especially when you're not at a top team like Red Bull, that's what's going to give you those lackluster performances when you're driving the car comfortably.
You can argue with you, though, because the problem is that now you're making it, is it the driver? Is it the car? Is it his lack of confidence? Like,
that's the thing. I don't think he's been in cars that he's been comfortable with for the last, in Renault 2020, Renault 2019, he wasn't comfortable with the car. 2020, he was comfortable with the car, and he pushed that car to 2 podiums.
Yeah, I think he plays it too safe, but I think that comes into play whether it's a team thing, a car thing, a him thing, because I know there's like mental health issues and stuff like that. There's a lot that went down, especially when he was at McLaren and things like that. Like, it's a lot of mind games, I'm sure. But I think it's really hard because you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, they also did replace parts on his car because of something. I think that was at Jeddah, and I think there was some in Australia. But I don't know. That's Daniel Ricciardo. We will see in the future how he fares.
I think he's going to fare as a midfield driver. Has he ever been the number 1 driver at a
Red
team?
Bull.
Yeah, at Red Bull.
And people were surprised about that because they kicked out Kvyat for Verstappen in 2016 and left Daniel there, even though Kvyat had scored more points than him last season in 2015 or whatever it was. But Daniel's an 8-time race winner, and nobody knows who Danny Kvyat is anymore.
Awkward.
Danny Kvyat could be a good podcast subject as well.
Awkward. Okay.
Debatable. That's something we can get into another time. Want to move to Q2?
Are you ready to cry real tears with me?
Q2. Big story there. Hamilton out.
Wait.
P11.
Wait. You're not crying. You're not crying real tears. I can do it, guys. In about 2 seconds. Okay. This
has been rough.
This becomes, again, the same topic we talked about with Daniel, though. Now, I'm smiling now. Now I I'm a Mercedes and a Ferrari girly, okay? Everyone knows this. Putting it out there. Okay, everyone? I don't know how to say this. I think there has been a problem with the cars at Mercedes, but also something with the drivers. Like, there's some sort of disconnect between Lewis and his car. And like, do you get what I mean? Like,
let me get an onion.
Let's just I don't understand. And it's going to be very interesting to see the move to Ferrari because of it, I think, because where did everything go? You don't forget how to drive a car, I don't think. Cars can be bad, but at the same time, you can also be disconnected from the car, I think.
Absolutely. This also goes back to another interesting thing of seeing some of these drivers who were great during the last generation of F1 cars. Can they even drive these new gen F1 cars at all? Hamilton struggled. Ricciardo struggled. Fernando Alonso can drive a minecart to P20 in an F1 race. I'm sure of it. But, I mean, it's just really interesting to see how different these cars are and who can cope with it and who can't. Or how the teams obviously build their cars. Because we know Mercedes has not built a very good car at all since these regulations have changed.
Yeah, but here's the deal. And this is why I don't understand what's going on and why Hamilton was out in Q2. Hear me out, everyone. How can you be confident with the car, not confident with car, confident with the car, not confident with car, confident with the car, not confident with car?
And what that's referencing, for anyone who doesn't know, after FP1 in Australia, first practice, Lewis Hamilton quoted, "This is the most confident I felt in this car." Finishes practice 2, P18, "This is the least confident I felt in this car." And he's back and forth. He's suggesting setup changes, but it's also interesting that he says, "I suggested these changes and then suddenly he loses confidence. So there's clearly a disconnect where the car isn't doing what he's expecting it to in some capacity.
Sorry, guys, I had to clear my throat. It's from all that crying about Lewis Hamilton. And also, hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So here's the dealio. I just don't understand how that can be a problem. Not like we psychoanalyzed and like went and read anything about it, but I just think it's a little weird. It's just my opinion. I think that there should be. Look, I want him to do well, and I don't don't prefer George over Lewis. I don't know if I have any heart to either driver specifically, but like I know it sounds weird because I'm like defending Hamilton, but I like the team. I like Toto Wolff. But I just think it's weird. I don't. Wait, now I have to read this. I really don't think Hamilton should have joined Ferrari. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a good driver, one of the GOATs, but I feel it's more of a popularity revenue move if that makes sense. But why get rid of Sainz, who's so underrated in my opinion? If you want Leclerc as the main guy, then why have a driver like Hamilton who also wants to be number one driver, whereas Sainz did a fantastic job as number two? I have a lot to say about that. Let's break it down. Ferrari move, totally Hamilton ending his career. 1000% he just wanted to do it. Every driver wants to do it. He's going to probably end at Ferrari. The second breakdown of that is Sainz is underrated. But I think Sainz and his team is preparing for moving to Audi. I almost 1000% think that's what's going to happen. I also think Sainz knows he'd be the number one driver there. And I think Sainz wants the opportunity to be the number one driver.
This is the weird thing about when Sainz was signed to Ferrari in the first place. Seb Vettel was really struggling, and that's putting it lightly. And we know he's a 4-time champion, so it could just be the whole, oh, Ferrari's just axing, like crutching one of their drivers so they can like force him out for a new guy or whatever. Carlos Sainz was obviously brought in as the second driver. Leclerc's going to be the main guy there. They've wanted him as the main guy there. The Tifosi want him as the main guy there. I can't stop
thinking of the Leclerc!
Yes, exactly. But that didn't happen. Sainz has only ever really been a leader, I think, when he's been at McLaren. That's the only time where you can say 100% he's been the number one driver at a team. And he came in, and the first year, 2021, he scored more points than Leclerc, finished ahead of him in the championship. Now, obviously, through an entire championship battle, we saw Leclerc was much more consistent, much better than Sainz was. But now, Sainz is the only other winner than Red Bull and mainly Max Verstappen in the last 2 seasons. And he's gotten those on merit.
I don't think for Carlos Audi is a gamble. I think it's
pretty set in stone.
I think it's pretty set in stone. Yeah. But again, we don't know, but that's just my opinion. Like I have no idea. I just think that we want to say that like, oh, Sainz is being pushed out. But behind closed doors, Sainz might have told them that he wanted to leave. Or he wasn't getting what he wanted. I mean, you don't ever really know, I don't think.
No.
Of course, it's all like hush-hushed. But I think that... I think the Hamilton move is interesting. I don't know, other than to say that it was because he just wants to end at Ferrari to be one of the greats who wants to end at Ferrari. You know, it's giving Sebastian Vettel, not gonna lie. Do you think he wants to be the main driver? I know a lot of guys do, but I feel some guys like Perez, Sainz, etc. are maybe better at being second drivers due to not as much pressure. I kind of think that makes sense. I don't
think Sainz wants to be a number 2.
I think that Lewis is going... I think we could see something really bad go down if the Ferrari's good.
Yeah. We've seen a Lewis-Hamilton rivalry with his own teammate before.
I think that Lewis also understands, though, that, again, Lewis isn't washed, but Lewis is moving out. If you look at how things are moving in F1, like, he's going to have to understand that if the team decides to favor Leclerc, there's a reason. That's my opinion. I think Checo's a good second driver. I think Sainz wants to be a number 1 driver.
Sainz has said before he even got his first podium when he was with McLaren, he's like, I want to be a world champion, but my first step is I have to get my first podium, then I have to get my first race win. and he just like I, I think he moved to Ferrari because you're not gonna not move to Ferrari if you're an F1 driver. I think there are very few drivers that would not accept Ferrari coming to them and saying, "Here's a contract, sign the dotted line, and you'll be driving for Ferrari." Anyone would take that in a heartbeat. I'm sure of it. So I don't. I understand what you mean, drivers being number two drivers, but I don't feel like he's a like Barrichello as much as Barrichello was like forced into the role, and then now Ferrari doesn't want to play the we have a number two driver. I think Sainz has the capability to an extent, and also wants to be the lead driver in his team. And the Audi move makes sense because his dad obviously is paired with Audi. So that's what I see happening. But then that also leads to the massive question: when is Audi going to be good? Because they're taking over a team that right now is barely fighting for second to last. You can't, even with major rule changes, you can't expect some newbie team to just jump. Like even Aston Martin last season, that was a big shock because of how far they moved forward. And that's a team that's been owned by the Strolls since, 19 or 20? And we've seen how many years it's taken to them to get even consistent podiums, and then they even fell off. They couldn't compete with the rest of the teams throughout the entire season. They lacked in upgrades. But do I think Audi will actually be a top team? They could be eventually, but that also goes in the whole thing of Volkswagen seems to have a very toxic relationship with Formula One in the first place. They've been wanting to get into F1 forever. They've wanted the engine regulations changed forever for them, and then all of a sudden Porsche pulls out of their deal with Red Bull for X, Y, and Z reasons. Audi seemed like they wanted to pull out of this current F1 deal even a few times as they were buying stock in Sauber F1. I think Volkswagen, a company of that might, surely has what it takes to get to the top of F1, but I don't know if they have the willpower. Because kind of like Honda, they show up. I feel like it's going to be, like Honda. They're going to show up. They're going to give it everything. They might be last, and they'll say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And they might try again 20 years later. Because that's kind of what happened with Honda the last time. They could be. I don't think they will, though. That's the short end of the straw. They're just, they want to be in F1 now because it's gaining so much popularity. They want to promote their brands forward. I don't think that long-term commitment is there, to be honest. I don't know. I think Audi's better in endurance racing, rallying. That's more their thing. Audi and F1's a very interesting thing because I don't think we've ever seen them racing in this capacity before. So that's the 2 cents on Audi. But Sainz going there absolutely makes sense because of what his dad does, of course. His dad's 2-time rally champion. He's driven for Audi for a little while in some regards, back and forth, but it would make sense. Just like Mick Schumacher being in the Ferrari Driver Academy when he wanted to drive for Ferrari because his dad, Michael, drove for Ferrari. So why wouldn't you want to follow in those footsteps if you could? For top drivers at Audi at the start is too much of a gamble personally. Give it a year or two to see how it goes first. Maybe they have 2 F2 drivers or more watch drivers there to test it out or not. Not a driver who's in his prime or reputation could be tarnished potentially. I think the most likely candidates for Audi right now is honestly Sainz and Hülkenberg with a reserve of possibly Mick Schumacher. I don't know why Mick Schumacher. That doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but I think that could be the reserve. But Audi has seemed to be interested in Hülkenberg and definitely Sainz. So it's going to be a crazy 2026. I think that's all the more I could say on that. Audi's just an unknown quantity.
Keep talking about Audi for a second. I forgot something.
Not Pourchaire. Pourchaire is such a... Any of the F2 champions are so interesting to me because it's very rare that you see something like a Mick Schumacher where he gets a seat right away, right? Because Oscar didn't get a seat right away. De Vries didn't get a seat right away. Pourchaire, Drugovich, they didn't get seats right away. And now Mick Schumacher had 2 years in F1, did all right, had some crashes, let's be honest, he had some big crashes. But now he's in WEC with Alpine as a Mercedes reserve, and there's no telling if he could be in F1 again anytime soon. We don't know.
Anyway, I'm back. I got us drinks, guys. I'm cool. Sorry, how unprofessional of us. So, what did we end on? Lewis being out?
Yes, that was the end of Q2.
You guys had your little Ben time. Now
Nick
it's
got
time
it
for
because of his
me.
name. Stroll is only an Aston Martin as a family. Exactly.
Okay, so after qualifying, Checo got a penalty. Do you actually know what the penalty was for?
Wasn't impeding Hulkenberg and someone else?
Mm-hmm. So it changed our starting grid, which is pretty interesting. So it was Lando up into P3, correct?
Yeah.
That was the big dilemma.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the big news there. But do you want to kind of talk about the race? You guys know what we want to talk about first. You know the most important thing that happened in the race? Yes, it was P4, I'm pretty sure.
Charles started P4, I'm pretty sure. Yep.
You guys, Max? Hello?
So I
Hello?
think anyone who watched the race is going to have pretty much the same reaction we did, which was, oh, Carlos overtook Max.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That'll last for 3 laps.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you hear Max on the radio, the rear end's loose. Okay. Every time he gets overtaken, he says, man, my downshifts really suck. And then 3-4 laps later, he has a 5-second gap on the guy in front. Then we see him going down the main straight. Wow, was that dust or is he smoking?
Okay, wait, can I just say, I don't know how anyone thought it was dust because it was literally following him.
It was definitely following him, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I think you think it's dust because there's no way Max Verstappen's about to retire from this race.
I guess because it's so unexpected.
Because
like,
it's been 2 years since he DNF'd and it was at the same track. Sure enough, cameras keep following him. We get an onboard, and his brake is pretty much on fire. DNFs, pulls into the pit lane. See the mechanic. Nope, you're done. And the entire wheel assembly, suspension is burning. Tire pops, explosion. Very dramatic.
So wait, can I tell you guys a story? So, Kelly Piquet brought Penelope to this race, and it was really, really, really sad that she didn't get to watch Max win. All things aside, but really sad she had to like watch that all happen. Anyway, back to the not sentimental part. Very interesting to watch. Not something you expect to see from the Red Bull either. Not something we've seen in a while either. I think it's kind of crazy if you think about it.
Well, not only that, but then Esteban had a brake issue too.
Yeah, that's true.
True. But Esteban had a brake issue too. But to be fair, that was just a tear off getting stuck in the brake duct for the 1,000,000th time in the last 3 years.
Side note, my boba just tastes like syrup.
Oh, that's kind of nasty. But I don't know. Anytime Max DNFs this season, it's going to give everybody a jolt because everybody's just kind of bored of Max winning. And he's doing a great job. He's doing his job. You can't take that away from him.
Okay, but we did make every single joke we could about the fact that he was going to get out of the car and go back on iRacing, which I think is funny because then we saw it later on Twitter as well. So it means that we're all living in the same world.
Where Max just wants to race all the time. He doesn't care if it's real life or sim racing. He just wants to be driving.
He just wants to be
car,
driving all the time.
which is incredible, honestly. If that's what he wants to do with his life, that's what he loves.
So
he deserves it.
Were we cheering? Yes. Because
not as much
finally,
as the Aussie fans, though.
Finally. Yeah, that was funny. Oh, by the way, what's this thing? I saw a fair, but when they throw the tape out of the car and it gets stuck in other people's brakes,
yes,
etc.
tear off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to explain what that is?
You can explain it.
So obviously drivers have different visors. They can do different visors depending on the daylight, but they have little plastic sheets over them because you're getting rubber kicked up, gravel kicked up, so it can blur your vision. It's literally a piece of plastic. They rip it off and they throw it out of the car. And they have like 80, 90 of them probably. They have at least like 20, 30 for an entire race. but that's what it is. And they just throw it out of the car. Sometimes they just land on the track, and it's happened so many times in the last 2-3 years where it'll just get sucked into a brake duct and screw. It happened with one of the Alpines last season at Canada. It happened with Esteban at this race. I think it happened to Max and Charles a few times. I think it happened at Monaco where Max threw a tear off and it got stuck in Charles' wheel. And then they were like, oh my God. And then they had to pit and it just lost 40 seconds.
I think it's so funny though, because we don't see a lot of this consistently. You know what I mean? You don't see the issues. And it's so funny because then it's oh my God, wait, what was that? It's the same thing with I don't know, what was it? The first race where Logan pulled off?
Yeah, that thing was weird though.
But that's what I'm saying. You don't expect to see these things because it's just seemed that everything just went so well.
With how reliable these cars are getting.
Right. It doesn't seem like there's these issues anymore.
Can we talk about that for a second? Does anybody know what happened to Logan Sargent at Bahrain? Remember we just saw him lock up and he went really wide and people were like, oh, Logan just sucks. The Williams new steering wheel decided to just go full brake bias on the front. And I'm sorry, if you're going into a corner and your car just says, let me lock the front brakes, then you're not making it out of the other side of the corner in the way you want to get out of the corner. That's that.
I didn't really think about the fact that chewing boba and trying to do a podcast probably isn't the best idea, but welcome to the vibe.
It's like we said, figuring it out.
No, I'm figuring out that I'll have boba on my podcast if I want it.
Yeah.
Guys, are you ready?
So
it's time to cry real tears.
Again. Moving on in the race.
No, stop. Let me have my moment. Everybody get ready. Cut your onions if you have to. Stop smiling.
He hates onions.
Okay? Stop. That's funny. Stop smiling. Cry a tear with me. Lewis, out of the race. Did you really have to ruin my life? Did you really have to ruin my day? Did you really just wait. It's gonna get good. Okay, I just want to say, of all the people that could have DNF'd in Mercedes, it could have been George.
Well, he did DNF.
Later. Shut up.
I'm just saying.
Did he really do that? Shut up. Why did they have to do this to me? Why does it... Of all things. And again, now, me being an annoying Mercedes fan, here's what I have to say. Okay? You felt good in the car, you didn't feel good in the car. You felt good in the car, you didn't feel good in the car. Now, was it literally the car or was it you? Okay, wait, hold on. So here's a question with Perez underperforming so consistently. Max DNF'd, both Ferrari and McLaren drivers performing so well. Do you think there's any chance that we could see a shock this season, even a tiny chance?
What do you mean by a shock? Like a shock driver transfer?
Or do you mean someone doing better than...
Like a shock podium or win?
Yeah. And then we can cry about Lewis Hamilton again. Because I can't believe it.
It was a very weird failure too, because it's just going along and the engine just entirely cut out.
Well, maybe it shouldn't have.
And it sounded like, I did say this during the race, and I'm not saying I'm some magician, but they showed an onboard of him going down the straight, and I think I just mentioned, I was like, man, that sounds like his engine's just under revving a little bit. It just didn't sound like it was reaching peak power. Drivers or constructors champion for Ferrari or McLaren, etc. Definitely not constructor champion.
It's not going to be Mercedes because they don't know how to make a car.
I think we can get shock race results, but overall for the season, I don't think the championship's going to change. I think it's going to be Max, maybe Checo 2 or 3, but Red Bull's winning constructors, I'm almost certain.
I'd agree.
Max alone.
I'd agree.
It's the same
100%.
thing with Alonso. You see how bad Stroll did, but Alonso just dragged Aston Martin up the order in the constructors championship last year with everything.
If George wants to be the one that drags Mercedes up to the top, maybe he should start doing it.
Dragged it through the gravel.
Okay, stop. We're getting there later.
Sorry, they're just rating themselves.
Okay, so Lewis is out.
And after that, there was a good meme where they flipped the grid order and it was Ham bot Ver again, which we haven't gotten since 2021. So that was pretty cool to see. How long until Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, or Piastri championship? Norris isn't winning a championship.
Sainz probably will, maybe once, but it would be sooner rather than later. Leclerc is going to get one sooner than we think. I'm betting on
once
2
Fred
years.
Vasseur, once Fred Vasseur gets everybody in shape at Ferrari.
Reg changes.
Reg changes for Ferrari, you think?
Mm-hmm.
This is Fred
unless
Vasseur's
Mercedes
first
wants
car.
to come back up. I mean, Not gonna lie.
I think Piastri could be champion. I don't think he's going to do it with McLaren. I have no faith in McLaren.
I don't think Piastri's gonna be champion. That's my opinion. And the only reason I say that is because I think he's gonna make the same mistake, and he's going to be a McLaren boy with Norris for quite a bit of time, and I think that's the wrong thing to do.
I think Norris has the talent. I don't think he will because he's just going to stay with McLaren, and I have no confidence in Zach Brown or their massive wind tunnel project that they've been touting for years, or the fact that they're 3 years away from winning a championship for the last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And the fact that they fired their only race winner in the last 10 years.
Nah, fair point. Yeah, it is a fair point.
Zach Brown's extended his contract till 2030. McLaren's winning maybe 2 races. I have no confidence in Zach Brown.
You heard it here, folks. Guess what I don't have any confidence in?
Lewis Hamilton.
The Mercedes as a whole.
I was going to make another George Russell gravel trap joke, but I didn't want to.
Do it. I don't want to hear it. Okay. I don't know.
Love his music, though.
I don't. Oh, wait. I love his music, though. Toto Wolff. Yeah, I know. Just.
Zach Brown.
Ew, no.
Chicky Fry.
Okay. So, to get into the big thing, this is going to be our big topic. Okay. We'll come back to who won the race and all that stuff in a second. George. Could you have not just ended the fucking race, please? Anyway, so I if you haven't seen, he hit the wall in the turn, was following Alonso, ended up in the middle of the track. It's posted all over the internet, begged for a red flag, and here we go. Let's break this down. Okay, so
if you watch the onboards, obviously George has been close enough for DRS for a while. He's closing the gap, and Alonso knows this. Now, Alonso also it's been proven at this point he was having some sort of ERS problem where his throttle kept like glitching. It's something, but he was having some sort of throttle issue. I don't think he was having throttle issues necessarily in. Okay, you watch Fernando's onboard, the backwards cam. George is close, but not that close. But you hear Fernando lift, and all of a sudden George gets very close. Now, if you look at the actual telemetry data, Alonso said to the stewards, what I was trying to do was get off throttle earlier, slow my car down more, go into the corner slower so I could get on throttle earlier and exit the corner faster because he's going down the long straight and he wants to keep higher top speed.
You think no.
Now, here's where the stewards did penalize him. The data showed he lifted very early, but he also did apply the brakes.
He applied the brakes 100 meters before the actual braking zone.
He then got back on throttle, then braked at his normal point, and then did the normal turn. So he did get on the brakes. I don't think he said he messed up and let off throttle earlier than he wanted to, so he had to get back on power. But it's also, they also said he didn't apply the brakes too much. It was more the drag forces of him slowing down, but it was still deemed driving unnecessarily slowly.
Here's where I get very pissed off. So, I am a firm believer, and you don't have to agree with me. I'm not saying he brake checked him or whatever. I'm not saying that happened. But what I am saying is Fernando Alonso's Instagram post where he decided he had to basically say that he was a professional driver and he's done this for so long, and you don't drive the car to the limit and you don't push hard and you don't bullshit. Absolute bullshit from Alonso. It's dirty racing. I was going to say that, and everybody's going to get mad at me, but I do think it is dirty. And if you don't think that these F1 drivers don't do this shit to each other, you are sorely mistaken.
And we've seen incidents from Alonso before. Think Baku, I think it was 2022, where he suddenly locks up, goes straight, and Alex Albon, who was faster behind him, couldn't complete a lap. And Alex gets on the radio and complains about it. We've seen this before.
You can be mad at me for that opinion, but that's just the truth of the matter. That's the truth of any sport. Like, people do shit on purpose. So, like, if you don't know that, whatever. I will say, before we started this, I'm not biased though, because I don't even like George Russell. So
I think George did get a little too close.
But what I was gonna say is I was actually watching George talk to some interviewers after the race before they got called to the stewards, and he also said that he didn't know what went down. like to the level that the data would show, because he said he knew that he was closing the gap and that he braked earlier than the braking zone, because these drivers have done this for long enough now that, so pretty much all George says is you can go watch it. He says something along the lines of, he says something like, I was in the wall, like I lost the car. Like, so, I mean, you can say I'm biased, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, you can disagree, whatever, but the whole thing is there's definitely games to be played. People play games. I don't know if the penalty was necessary.
I think it was a little too harsh.
That's what I think too. That's what I was going to say, is I don't think it was, I don't know why the decision was made the way it was. I don't think the penalty was necessarily that.
This also brings the whole thing of, should there be a penalty in the first place? Because a lot of people were saying,
yes,
if George did crash, then there wouldn't have been a penalty for that type of driving. Because as scummy as it is, you do see drivers park it on the apex all the time anyway, just like really slowly go into a corner.
I still would have, but I don't think it was deserving. What did he get? Like
20.
That's what he got.
Because it was
20.
a drive-through, which converted to a 20-second penalty.
Yeah, that's stupid. But again, I'd agree with you that the whole thing on track, you guys, I don't understand. Some people should just like get off the internet. I'm sorry, this is just my opinion, but obviously it was terrifying. Obviously he's gonna beg for a red flag. Why the fuck did they call a VSC?
So Stroll went through, the first car to go through, Stroll went through, and he still could have been going full racing speed. He didn't know what was happening. If you watch his onboard, his engineer gets on, he says, yellow ahead, yellow ahead, yellow ahead. And Stroll finally slows down, goes to the left, and then he gets on radio, and he's like, whoa. Like,
yeah, so the FIA was making some very weird calls over the weekend. We were talking about this a little bit, that Hauger, if you can actually watch it, it's posted everywhere. Hauger and George's literal accident at the same spot. Hauger wasn't thrown into the track as much, but like pretty much, again, if you want to go watch it, because it is kind of like a, I don't know, trigger warning, I guess. George pretty much gets on the radio and calls like red flag, red flag, red flag multiple times, and then pretty much his engineers tell him there's a VSC and are telling him what drivers are coming around him, because he has no idea.
Yeah.
So in what world do we think it's okay to call a VSC and not red flag the race? I don't care. It was going to end where it ended.
And this is the thing. Apparently this is brought up that the drivers had an issue with this corner anyway. But like, we've now seen an F2 crash, an F1 crash, and an F1 crash last year with Albon, where cars have ended up more or less in the same spot.
Here's the thing. I understand what a VSC and a red flag is, but red flagging and telling a driver that, oh no, my argument that, well, we have to keep going because we're still going to record this, but telling a driver that there's a red flag is a completely different reaction than there is telling them there's a VSC. Sorry it got unstable for you that are actually watching it live, but that's just the truth of the matter. Is like, getting a call that there's a red flag in your ear is entirely different than a VSC. If it slows you down to the same pace, that's fine. But literally, I'm guaranteeing that engineers are in your ear saying, red flag, slow the fuck down.
Yeah, like, we've seen it a few times where they call safety car and they lift off throttle and slowly apply braking. But if you hear red flag, most of the time you hear them immediately off throttle and braking hard.
Because, yes, Stream died and came back. So,
and especially
if you didn't catch that,
especially for a corner like that, because it is a corner. So if you hear a safety car, it's like, I don't know. I think it still should have been a red, because it's an entirely different reaction. And I think they were just worried because they got so much flack last year because there was red flag, red flag, red flag. But it's like, if you need a damn red flag, there's a car stopped in the middle of the track that he can't drive away from it. He can't move his car. He's lost 2 of his wheels. He's up on his side. I think it needed to be red flagged.
If we're on the level where a driver cannot see who's coming, pretty much, I just want to say this because I know it's vulgar, but here's the fact of the matter. If anyone would have hit George, that would have been it for George, not for the other driver.
If it was at full racing speed.
Period. I don't know how to say that in a nicer way. And there's enough data to show it. So
I think it should have been a red. And that turn is ridiculous as well.
which also we need to talk about the fact that at the end of the race, the drivers' signs were saying that it did come up in the drivers' meeting, which means it is a problem and has been brought up multiple times. So
Also, yeah, going back to the Suzuka thing that you mentioned, with Gasly out on track with the truck, that was ridiculous.
but there's some sort of, again, this is a disconnect, and again, we don't sit in the drivers' meetings, we have no idea, but that has been brought up in drivers' meetings. This turn has brought up in the drivers' meeting. Like, it's not something. It's an injustice on calls made during the race.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
I agree. I understand it's the same delta pace, but it's also red is more urgent. Exactly. That's why I think it's because you hear red flag, you're slowing down right away. If you hear safety car, you normally again hear them lift off throttle and they start slowing down. I think it should have been red. Just at that point, you're already gonna finish the race. We knew the order.
Yeah, we knew the order. We knew how it ended. It wasn't something where we had to like question it. Like, at that point, it was over.
Yeah, the angle George's car was at, and you're gonna T-bone another driver in like a fifth, fifth gear corner. It's
That's
just,
the George thing again with Antoine. That was kind of the immediate thought process
Getting
of literally
T-boned.
everyone, and also the fact that a majority of those drivers knew Antoine. So like, this is not something like it's not a joke, and
it was just it was not handled as well as I feel like it would have been.
We understand the similarities between the two, but I think there's an injustice in calls. And I think there was an injustice in calls all weekend. It wasn't just an F1 thing. And it came up with F2 and F1. So, be that as it may, I'm glad George is okay.
In the end, everyone's all right. So, it is what it is. But there's always lessons to be learned.
But Sainz won the race, guys.
So, I don't think anybody predicted that we'd have a Ferrari 1-2 also, which was kind of insane. So Norris did say after the race, because obviously Norris got on the podium as well, he did say, I think we could have caught Leclerc. He seemed to have a little bit less pace than us. He just undercut us and everything. I don't think that's necessarily true, because he did pass Lando at some point. I know it was an undercut, but he still passed Lando and everything. But we never really saw Lando or either of the McLarens really make an impression on the Ferraris for too long. Even as Leclerc was making a gap to Sainz, the gap relative to Norris stayed more or less the same.
Forza Ferrari, anyone? I mean, seriously.
Let's hope they can keep the momentum up.
Yeah, I'm actually really shocked. Did you guys even think that Ferrari was going to make a podium this year? Because I mean...
A win?
Well, a win and a podium. I mean, just
podium.
in general... Ben,
oh,
did you think they were going to make a podium at all this year?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Really? I thought the car looked decent at the beginning from like a driver perspective. Because we're
just arguing.
We've had a Ferrari driver on the podium every time so far this year.
Listen.
Ferrari should finish second in the constructors this year. They should.
Listen.
They should have done it last year too.
I'm just saying.
No, Katie.
My expectation was a little bit different for the season. Am I mad? No.
I had faith in Fred.
I was not. Maybe like 1 or 2 later in the season, but I was not. I really was not.
I thought they were going to be all right.
Do you know who I thought was going to take podiums this year? Genuinely?
Mercedes?
No.
Who?
I thought it was going to be Red Bull and Alonso.
Again,
I really thought they were going to dominate the top. That's my honest opinion.
The ending moment was really cute with Carlos and Charles. Carlos saying,
yes,
"Tell
cute.
Charles to come close." I'm sad Charles didn't get closer. I wanted them to go almost even over the line. That would have been cool.
It's just a thing with timing though between engineers.
Probably
and
was a VSC Delta thing, and then he didn't want to risk a penalty going over the Delta.
Yeah, but I mean, all I'm saying is I'm very happy that we do have a Ferrari 1-2.
Aston did fall off last season, like I mentioned earlier. They just never. They had a great car at the beginning, but the upgrades were just not enough, ever.
Shocker.
So much for that new factory, right at Silverstone.
I mean, but Lawrence Stroll. I mean, don't you understand?
Well, he wants to be knighted. Remember? Did you ever hear about that?
No.
So you know how?
I do
sorry,
everything in my power to avoid Lawrence Stroll and anything.
This is a
has
bit
to
of a
do with
tangent,
him.
but for anyone who doesn't know, Force India went into administration, which is some sort of bankruptcy or anything. I don't know the exact thing. I'm not from the UK, but it went into administration. Lawrence Stroll bought the company and renamed it to Racing Point and genuinely saved hundreds of engineers' jobs, but then went on record and said, I feel like I deserve a knighting for that. Anyone who says they deserve to be knighted for something doesn't deserve to be knighted for something. That's my opinion.
You know who doesn't deserve to be knighted? And me and Ben talk about this all the time. I know this is completely unrelated. LOL, hee hee ha ha hoo hoo. I think that you shouldn't be knighted if you don't wear socks with your loafers.
Yeah.
Me and Ben talk about this all the time. Sorry, not to go into a Lawrence Stroll hate tangent, but
He also has his monogram on his shoes, which is a choice for a billionaire. But I mean, he's a billionaire, so.
Lawrence Stroll is a bellend. Yeah, well, we agree.
Hey,
so.
To be honest, he did gain some respect from me this year, simply because if you did, I watched Drive to Survive for the memes. So does she at this point, because it's just funny at this point.
Memes.
But he did have a really nice moment where when Lance at the beginning of last season broke both his wrists, he was like sitting with the interviewer, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, it's a really hard moment for me because I'm running this Formula One business. One of my drivers is hurt, but I always need to remember that I'm dad first. And it was a really sweet moment.
And Ben thought it was so sweet.
It was a genuine moment I didn't expect him.
Cute.
I didn't expect him to be like that, to be honest.
Not Lawrence Stroll
Not
being
Lawrence
a
Stroll.
dad.
Jack Wolf's really cute though. Anyway,
Where the fuck did that come?
Because being a dad, you like Toto.
Dilf? Anyone? Anyway, I meant about Toto, not Lawrence Stroll.
Definitely not Lawrence Stroll.
My nightmare. Oh my god.
I am the owner of Aston Martin Formula One team, cognizant of Aramco.
Jesus. Why does Lawrence Stroll always come up?
I want Fernando to get a good car again. I know we were just talking about everything, but I want him to have a good car
again. But that's the thing, is that my expectation is we were going to see Aston Martin and an occasional Ferrari podium later in the season. I know that sounds awful,
and possibly Mercedes.
I didn't expect that.
What, Mercedes podiums?
Yeah, no.
I'd expected a few.
Maybe some from George.
I expected one so far, but
I still think it's wrong he picks Lance to his son when there's much better drivers. I
mean, he bought the team so he can do what he wants, right?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Like, you pretty much are your free reign.
Yeah.
On all decisions.
Yeah, but that goes back to what we said earlier about, like, why would Drugovich sign a deal with Aston Martin when you know there's one seat available rather than two at any given point? But that also goes into another thing that we can talk about either later or next podcast.
So, I mean, I think also we have to talk about the fact that Sainz literally, Mans was, I don't know if anyone saw it. The team took pictures and they were like, did you see it? They were like doing the champagne. Mans couldn't even run away. He was like limping.
Yeah, he
like,
was hurting.
He was hurting. Oh, poor man.
Is to be expected. He had a major surgery, but it's also, I felt better about him getting in the car this race than I did about Lance last year in Bahrain.
I'd agree. I mean, I'm still very impressed that someone who literally just had surgery just won a race.
And yeah, and it was something like he was the first driver since like the 70s to do that, win a race immediately coming back from an injury. I forget who else it was. I think it was
really? There's actually like stats on it.
I think it was maybe Gerhard Berger or something, but he was the first driver since like 74 to win a race coming back right after an injury.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
Oh, wow. Good for Carlos.
Yeah. Yeah,
Aww.
And then it's obviously everyone on Twitter tweeting about, did you see the thing today? Someone reformatted like the FIA penalty document, and it was like, weight limit Carlos Sainz, car weight is under 9.8 ounces or whatever, which is approximately the weight of a human appendix, and blah, blah, blah.
Did you see, guys, this is so funny. So Gunther Steiner did the end of race interviews. He tweeted about Carlos winning and also being able to like understand him or whatever, like his questions. But he pretty much also made a tweet about the fact that he like lost weight and that was going to be good for the team because it was so funny.
Gunther being Gunther. Always love it.
Oh, we always love Carlos and Carlos.
Carlos and Carlos, yeah. The most unexpected thing for me from the whole appendix Carlos saga was him posting a picture in the hospital like this or whatever, and then him posting a picture of his dad in the hospital getting his appendix out.
Like, imagine
whatever.
being a sleigh. Imagine twinning with your dad.
And just posting signs to appendicitis 0.
Oh my
when
god.
Charles couldn't
it was
understand
so
Steiner was so funny.
It was so funny.
What?
It was like the most awkward pause
You
in
say
the world.
what? I said this. Good mate.
But yeah, I think that was
It was nice to have Gunther back in the paddock.
weird choice.
Kind of an iconic choice.
If you
though.
guys haven't been on Steiner's Twitter though, you should definitely go.
Is it his Twitter or is it somebody else's?
It's his for sure. It has almost like 200,000 followers. It's funny. It's funny.
That's pretty sick.
He literally posted it when like the Red Bull controversy was going on that he was waiting for the phone call.
That's just Steiner doing Steiner things, man.
It's iconic.
I'm so sad that I don't speak good enough German because I totally listen to the German broadcast just for him because that's what he's doing nowadays.
Oh, I forgot that's what
Yeah.
he's doing.
But I think they chose him to do this weekend, so I don't know if he was commentating for that. But some races he'll be commentating.
It was still good to see him there. It was still good to see
Because it's not like he left the paddock as a whole on bad terms. You know what I mean? So
period.
always happy to have him back. And then Norris did a good job. He obviously had team orders to pass Piastri, which is never going to be popular at somebody's home race. He was the faster driver again. Oscar's doing really well on pace. I think it just needs to get better with tire management. Seems to be his main downfall. But Norris did have a deserved P3 there.
I still think we also have to deem Piastri a little bit of a rookie in terms of experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Because even he made that whole comment and everyone was like, oh, haha, like when what was it, the turn 1?
Oh yeah, when he kept
like,
going through turn 1, he's
whatever.
like, this is how he's like, you can actually take turn 1 if you're not an idiot or something like that.
Something like that. But the whole thing is that he's still experiencing an F1 car. I don't know when you deem someone experienced enough. I don't have a personal opinion on that.
Yeah.
But maybe just when the data starts showing that you seem like you know what you're doing.
He does know what he's doing. He's
No,
just,
but you know what I
he's getting
mean.
more consistent.
You have to build up a consistency and a connection with the car.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the team, and like it's kind of the whole concept of like obviously Lando is consistent enough and can get onto like the podium with the car. He knows how to drive the McLaren F1 car.
Yep.
Even if they change stuff over this, you know what I mean? Like it's just this whole like, but I am surprised with the team orders, I will say. Kind of surprises.
I wasn't because it's McLaren and it's Norris. So
Well,
anything to get Norris ahead of any of his teammates.
okay, that's true. But yeah,
Except the one time he actually got out of Daniel's way anyway. Mexico.
I think Piastri's at a good level. He needs to get used to adjusting. Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying though. Is like I don't want to say he's like a rookie still. Like he knows what he's doing, but he just needs to get comfortable.
Yeah, he's not a rookie. He's just a more inexperienced driver compared to most of the rest of the grid at this point. And that's not anything against him because he's doing very well, especially when you look at some other rookies. I mean, look at someone who had a lot more racing experience than him. Nick DeVries. Where's he at now? And sometimes it's just people don't mesh with cars. Maybe DeVries wasn't made for F1, but do you think in 10 to 15 years we could be talking about Norris being the best driver to never win a race/championship?
Oh yeah, I put a lot of money on Norris not ever winning a race.
Especially because he's sticking with McLaren, and I have no faith in McLaren.
We
management.
talk about this all the time. Is the fact that we don't have any faith. If he would have just moved teams or moves teams soon, he would do so much better.
He's been offered Red Bull contracts 2 or 3 times now, and he says, "No, I don't want to partner Max Verstappen."
Stupid.
Who cares?
And it's stupid because we also have to talk about the fact of like, how long do you think Max is going to stay in the sport? Like, take your opportunity where you have it.
Build that relationship with the team, and then when he leaves, you could be the leader of that team. You want to add an opinion?
She says, "I agree."
Not a McLaren fan.
I understand not not wanting to you know, have to be Max's teammate, but at the same time, there's something to be said about somebody who can accept being the second driver for some time to later be the first.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Is Norris is the first now, but at an upper midfield team.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as McLaren is,
That
if
you're justified in saying, but when is later? That's true. That's true.
when is later exactly, and you're completely right. But if you have an opportunity to drive for a works Formula One team, a team that makes every part of the car their way and makes it work well, I think that's just the better option, because even if you're behind Max Verstappen, you're going to be driving the nuts off that car and you're going to show what you're really made of.
I do like how McLaren has Norris, Ferrari has Leclerc, Mercedes has Russell, and Red Bull has Max. I do like how these teams are building the future around young drivers for the long term. Yeah, I do too. But what does that say that for incoming rookies having these long term contracts? I mean, it's a whole rant and
This has
tangent in
been a very
itself.
interesting time for Formula One. All these young drivers getting very long contracts, because you think about someone like Bottas, who was good, who beat Lewis Hamilton on merit multiple times, and he can never get more than a 1-year deal at Mercedes. And now you have young guys, Leclerc. Ferrari never went for young talent. Now he had the longest contract in the history of the sport. I know that game's memed all the time because they've been doing bad. But Lando with his multi-year deal, Max multi-year deal. Like it's kind of unprecedented in the sport.
It's a weird time. It's so weird. I mean, having a long-term driver, I think, is kind of like having a safety net no matter what, because you do know they're good.
Yep.
You wouldn't sign them if they weren't. But I also feel like, how much talent are we going to lose out of the talent pool because there's just not a seat? And that brings up the whole idea of like poor chair not getting in. I mean, this is the whole idea. Like the talent pool is so big but small, but we're going to lose out on so many good drivers because there's so many long-term like contracts.
Yeah, and these guys are entering their primes. I mean, you talk about Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, they're all 25, 26 now. Norris is still 24, but they're in their mid 20s now, and they're going to be soon young 30s, and then they're going to be looking at possibly new talent. Or are we going to see this generation of Formula One drivers that is around until 2050, like Alonso? Are these guys all going to become Alonsos and stay in the sport forever?
We're
don't know.
Going to hear the Dutch anthem for like 50 years.
Everybody in the world's going to know the Dutch anthem.
It's going to be forever. Like,
and that's what we've yet to see. We don't know.
I think that's a good wrap up on the Oz GP though.
Yeah.
Sage is here for the ending.
Sage
she says,
here for the
I was
ending.
here for the beginning. I will be here for the end. We're not ending stream though, I promise.
But I think that's a good. I think that's a good list of everything that happened that's important at the 2024 Australian Grand Prix.
Where are we heading next?
Suzuka.
So we'll come and do this again after Suzuka.
Yeah.
But thank you for contributing. Thank you for talking with me, Ben. But
should we answer one final question?
Okay, I guess so.
Do you think it makes it less competitive? What I mean is, due to these long contracts, even if these drivers perform bad, they aren't under threat for new upcoming talent due to these contracts. I think there's clauses in the contracts, and we've seen this before, where Daniel Ricciardo had a 3-year deal, but it was shortened down to a 2 because he was underperforming. So there's definitely clauses where these drivers can get kicked if they're not performing, is my opinion.
Okay, on that note, very done, bravo.
Thank you for being here.
Very done, bravo.
Thank you for being here, joining us for our first podcast. We will learn to make it better.
Anyway.
But we had a lot of fun.
Okay, we're recording this after because, you're going to know that. But we just want to say thank you for being here. This will be the ending for like the actual YouTube and podcast and things like that. Nothing official yet. But thank you for being here. If you want to join, we're doing these live on Twitch, most likely on Mondays. On my channel, I'll have it linked below. And yeah, we hope you guys come and contribute, and we had a lot of fun. So yeah.